Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for December 19th, 2023, the last meeting for 2023. I'll call this meeting to order, and the clerk will note that all council are present. And let's have Woody lead us in the pledge tonight.
Oh, okay.
Do you still remember it?
I am honored, sir. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Anyone wish to amend the agenda? Seeing none. You're shuffling your papers. Was that to find an amendment?
We don't want to go there.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
I do need to announce that the public hearing noticed for tonight regarding development impact fees, the code amendments, has been continued and will be reset to January 2nd. As a reminder, the capital improvement plan and approval of impact and annexation fees will be heard on January 16th. We have three presentations tonight. One on CityLink, one regarding our police station remodel, and a snow plan. We'll start with Chad Engel from CityLink. Chad, welcome.
All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. All right, so we're excited to provide a brief update for Kootenai County Public Transportation Strategic Service Plan. So my name is Chad Engel, and presenting with me today is going to be Chris Yake and Olivia Metz. So Kootenai County Public Transportation was selected by FTA for an integrated mobility innovations project to address mobility gaps in transportation services. While defining costs, effective and efficient mobility options and solutions for riders, Kootenai County Public Transportation Strategic Service Plan further examines the impact and outcomes of multimodal travel to meet a variety of mobility gaps, as well as rider travel needs. So Chris and Olivia are going to give a high-level overview of the specific findings that we've detailed in our Strategic Service Plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Olivia and Chris.
Thank you. So this was our steering committee.
Give your name for the record, please.
Oh, sure. I'm Chris Yake with JUB Engineers.
Thank you.
So this was our steering committee throughout the course of the project with representatives from the local jurisdictions, planning staff, engineering staff. They were great to work with. This was our series of partner engagement, and we started way back in 2021, still in the throes of COVID, and now here we are, December 2023, presenting to you with our findings. So many of you have probably traveled and had access to a great transit system. Maybe you didn't have to rent a car, you could get to all your destinations just via transit. So the question is, what makes those places transit friendly? What makes them transit oriented, if you will? So transit-oriented development, or TOD as you may have heard of it, is essentially that blend of physical and social elements that contribute to higher ridership. So we use those metrics to, one, see how CityLink was doing currently with the existing system. Was it reaching the strongest transit markets in the county? And then two, as resources allow in the future, where might CityLink be extended to? So I'll touch on each of these Ds of TOD and what those mean. So it started with just a simple map of the existing system, as you see here, as well as a quarter-mile buffer around those bus routes. So that's generally speaking how far people are willing to walk to access transit. So we start with perhaps the most important, and that's density. In this case, residential density. I mapped out existing population density as of the census of 2020. And you see here, no great surprises, all the historic cores, as well as the one outlier being Coeur d'Alene Place and the landings. And basically, as we all know, there's a very large school-age population, lots of kids. So that might be kind of a temporary blip in the system for now. But as those families age, that might come down a little bit. Here, we worked heavily with KMPO, and we were able to get their 2040 projections for population. Not too much changes here, but you do see the prairies start to develop. This is employment, and this is critical because research has found that it's actually more important for employment to be close to transit than residential. And that's because when people get off the bus, they basically want to get off, walk straight into their office or place of employment. Here, we're a very nodal region. We've got downtown Coeur d'Alene. Clearly, we've got the hospital and the medical center. And then we've got small nodes north on 95. That makes it very nice for a transit system because you're able to direct your routes to those nodes. Again, using 2040 projections, not too much changes here, but everything intensifies, which again is really good for transit. So the next D is diversity, and by that I mean a mix of uses. This is critical because if people are to live transit lifestyles, they need to be able to meet their needs within walking distance of home or work. So this is the degree of mixed use along the corridors. And again, the existing lines do very well in tapping into these higher density mix of uses. 2040, like employment, is much of the same. Everything just intensifies a little bit more. Next, we have design. We did not try to look too heavily into this in terms of architectural styles or tree canopy. Instead, we used blocks per square mile. Here in close-in neighborhoods of Coeur d'Alene, we've got that tight grid of blocks, which is great for pedestrians because they're able to get to their destination using multiple routes. So here you see the most walkable areas are, again, close in Coeur d'Alene, as well as the historic cores of Post Falls and Rathdrum. There's also a social side to ridership. Low-income households are often captive to transit. They're what's called captive riders. They have no choice but to take transit to access medical needs and employment. So we mapped that out. And here, again, the existing system does pretty well in reaching those populations. Lastly, there's low vehicle ownership. This is great because this might not be just lower income households, but also maybe it's seniors who have, with retirement, have dropped a car. Maybe it's young professionals that don't have more than one car. So those are great transit markets. So here you see that mapped out. That's a little more evenly distributed across the county. So the real magic comes when you put all those together in an overall composite transit orientation score. So here we see the existing system really does a good job of reaching those strong transit markets. And for being such a small little system, it's got good ridership. 2040, like the other metrics, everything just intensifies a little bit. But again, you do see the prairies start to develop. This is really handy too because you can zoom in. One area where that's not transit oriented yet is the Atlas waterfront. So this underlies the importance of keeping the data current and updating this model on a regular basis. We all know that's developing rapidly, so it might not be transit-oriented now, but it certainly will be in the future as there's higher density development as well as some commercial aspects. Zooming in closer into Coeur d'Alene itself, you've got downtown, you've got the hospital, you've got the node of office development north on 95 and Silver Lake Mall. Those are all natural transit destinations. And lastly, this is great too as we locate bus stops themselves. You know, are they in the right location? We're able to use these heat maps to look and see where those hot spots are. In previous regions I've worked in, I've actually had developers want this data and want these maps because people are more and more drawn to walkable, transit-oriented areas to develop. So we're going to continue to, update and refine this tool into the future and use it in our next phase of the project, which is starting to drill down to the stop level. So with that, I'll turn it back to Chad.
Thank you.
Chris, I have a question, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Just a couple, because you used words I wasn't familiar with. So transit-oriented is what, you use that term?
Yeah, so it's funny that it is a term because, if you think of like the East Coast and other countries, cities were naturally built around transit. But now it's this novel new thing that we're going back to. So essentially what it is it's that blend, that walkable, mixed-use, higher density areas that are amenable towards transit, that people are more likely to take transit because of those characteristics.
And then you said something, another term was transit lifestyle.
Yep.
Is that one and the same?
Yes and no. So, people are unlikely to reduce their car ownership if they can't get around by any other means. But if they have good transit, if an area is walkable, like around us in downtown, then maybe households are able to drop one car, or as long as they can meet their needs within walking distance or by transit.
So when you talk transit, it's basically bus.
Bus here in this region, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Other questions? Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know if they're done yet. Are they done?
You're okay to ask
No,
questions,
I
it's
can
fine.
wait.
It's
Go.
okay.
Okay, well, maybe you'll be answering the question. I actually just had a meeting with a person that is connected to Heritage Health a couple of weeks ago. And the CityLink transit plan was just one moment of discussion, that there were some issues for ridership. Anyway, my question is, are you still taking information on this before you finalize your plan?
Do you want to take this?
So as we'll continue here, but so phase 2 of our strategic service plan will address CityLink North's network design. So that includes analyzing our existing stops, future stops, from both a macro framework as well as just that micro level of conditions as well. So yes, that we'll be taking all of that still into consideration as we drill into specific stops and as we move forward on the network design itself.
So then I'll just provide your information to that person.
Correct, that would be
Perfect. Thank you.
fantastic, yes. Yep, so additionally, I'll just continue on with the presentation. But so additionally, we are also developing a cost allocation model. So with this, it'll give us a full cost breakdown for delivering transportation services. So we can take it by vehicle hour, we can take it by vehicle hour, mile, and then passenger trips as well. So we're going even that step further of making sure that we have all the costs broken down, and so we can really analyze and help jurisdictions know exactly what they're paying for, so in essence. So yes, that's our presentation. And we just wanted to thank you today, and then happy to address any additional questions you may have as well.
Mr. English?
Although he might have been first. Okay, just one of the areas that I think you touched on is the, things that will promote, less cars, whatever that less car density, and I guess maybe the answer's obvious, but is a point of that to reduce emissions, reduce traffic tie-ups, and
That's exactly it. That's
Okay.
what transit is for. That's what we're trying to do, is just move more people in less of areas to reduce traffic, to reduce emissions, and just help everybody to be able to get to those necessities of education, work, recreation, and healthcare. So, yes, that's exactly
yeah.
it.
Okay.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chad? I noticed on my copy here, it says advisory committee, but you have working group. You don't have any elected officials there.
Okay.
Oh, and you're good with that.
Well, it's just, those are the individuals that we were able to talk with and get information from, just representing all the different groups. So we'd be more than happy to take any additional information from anybody. So we are more than happy to have other individuals join the group as well.
And how would they do that?
Just let us know, and we will reach out to them next time we have a meeting, and we'll invite them. for
Well, I would
sure.
like to see someone from the disabled community on your group.
Okay. We do also have a disability action group that we meet with as well.
They're just not
Um,
listed here.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yes, they are not listed there, but these are the individuals that we specifically got information for our first part of the strategic service plan, where we were just gathering the data for population, employment, and those things of that nature.
Okay.
yeah.
What is, I didn't see it here listed here, but you have a mission statement, right?
For CityLink, that's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you? And what is it?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, so I don't
Okay.
want to misquote it. but-
Oh, and I just want to know, because usually when I want to judge whether something's being successful or not, generally, an organization has a mission statement, and the question is whether you're meeting the mission statement. And I also wanted to see, and I didn't know if it was on the previous slide, but do you have something where you're just going to look at the data of your existing ridership, where you have all these pretty charts, and they're just really pretty? But is there anything that's going to come up, like it said, bus stop evaluation, prioritization, and site assessment? Is there anything that you're going to do where you're actually going to look at the numbers? So you have one stop that's like really busy, and then you have one that, I mean, when do you evaluate that?
That's what we talked about in the second phase of the strategic service plan. So that is going to be taking all that information, ridership information, and then the conditions around it as well. So we'll be taking all of that and analyzing what stops are best suited for the spot. So if it's not meeting its need where it's at, maybe we move it a little bit away from that spot to a different spot. But that's what we're taking a look at in our second phase.
Yeah, because that was what kind of brought this up, and why I wanted to have the discussion, and everyone else did too, because Ms. Knutson made a comment about someone who had to ride the bus, and in order to get to the final destination, it wasn't really a quarter-mile walk, it was more like a mile walk because of just the way streets are laid out and the bridges in this town.
Sure. Yep.
And that was a concern for me and other people as well. So we want to make sure that those kind of needs are going to be addressed. And that, to be a successful mass transit system, it also has to do with speed of operation too. I mean, if you want to take the bus in a city where I've taken the bus, like San Francisco,
Yep.
you know that there's going to be a bus showing up every 20 minutes or 15 minutes or even more
That's correct.
frequently. Is that something that you're working on?
That's something that we've always looked into, but as soon as you decrease headway, because that's what that is the headway, then you increase costs. So in order for us to cover as much area as we possibly can, like you talked about with people having to walk a mile to their destination, so we went for coverage. So our system goes far out. I mean, we go clear out Post Falls, Hayden, Coeur d'Alene. In order to do that, we have to have 1 hour headways. And so it is inconvenient for some, that is true. And we would like to decrease it to half-hour headways, but that means doubling our cost, basically. So
couldn't
you
you
could
do the
just
same
double the
thing by-
buses and double the cost.
Could you
but
do the
it
same thing by halving the routes? So instead of going all the way out to somewhere else, you could have a smaller route that has more frequent stops.
Yep.
Maybe prioritizing areas where people need to use public transportation most.
Yep, which is true. But then you go back to the issue, like you said, where somebody has to go a mile away
Right.
instead of being a quarter mile away for their walking to their destination. So,
Well, I'm
yes,
glad
that's
you're
true.
looking into it. Thank you.
That is correct, yes.
Anything else?
Oh, one more.
Yeah.
What are we getting for $100,000?
You're getting the ability to move a lot of people around, and you're helping the community greatly, because there are a lot of people who use it for work. They use it for healthcare, which is one of the biggest reasons why we have it, is to provide for the community and the public, so.
Thank you.
Dan?
Well, I was just going to put a plug in for exactly that, our counseling clinic right down the street, that we have somebody who regularly takes that,
We have a
who
lot of
lives in Post Falls.
Yep.
And she's happy to do, does the transit thing and all of that. And so that's, I'm glad we've got that. I'd like to see more. And frankly, that might be something maybe we ought to, as we prioritize what we're going to invest in, that's worth looking at. So,
Yep.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
All right,
presentation.
appreciate it, thank you.
Chief, you're going to update us on the police station remodel, or addition, I guess, really.
Merry Christmas, Mayor and Council. We want to come in front of you tonight to just give you a brief update on the status of the building project. Before I get started, I wanted to give a shout out to Captain Dave Hager, who over the past several years has really been the champion of this project for the city and for the police department. This includes meetings that he's had literally weekly with the CMGC and the architect firm, and I'm going to talk about value engineering and the work that he and this group has done to get this project about $800,000 under where it initially started and where we thought it was going to be, which really means we're down to bare bones and no frills at all. But Dave's really done a great job of making sure that we are good stewards of our taxpayer monies. We began this project, it says in 2021, but really I think the planning for this began at least a decade ago, knowing that we were going to quickly run out of space and how we can expand our existing facility. As you probably remember, Council approved the purchase of the adjacent land next to the existing station back in 2022. That occurred almost right at a year ago, December 2022. Let me just go through kind of the nuts and bolts of this. The plan as it sits currently, here we go. The existing station, if you're looking at it from the rear parking lot and looking kind of northwest, this would be the new addition onto the existing station. This is from the east, obviously. This is the new land that City Council purchased. It doesn't really look like that at all right now. It's just a big chunk of dirt. But if you were to look basically from Schreiber back out towards the police department, and then back over here would be the streets building, this would be the new addition that's basically just locker rooms, and I'll talk about that in just a second. From the northeast, once again, just a different view of the same thing. Here's how it looks currently. So the new facility would basically sit right in the area that I'm kind of outlining with the cursor, right in that area. There's really two phases or two different aspects that the plan entails. Number one is the existing locker room. We don't have enough lockers for our current staff. We haven't frankly for a few years now. And so the existing locker room is going to be gutted and turned into office space. The entire new facility, or the addition to the existing headquarters building, is basically just locker rooms and bathrooms. And that's it. That's all we're going to get out of this project. So in our existing building, this right now is a wall with right where the cursor is, where there's a drinking fountain, and this right now is the men's room and men's locker room, and over here is the female locker room and female bathrooms. The whole back side of this is going to be gutted to make office space, and then the two bathrooms will remain. This is the entire new facility. There's going to be an existing office that we have here that's going to be, we're basically going to demolish a wall to attach the two buildings. This is the men's locker room here and the female locker room there, with an exit out to a new parking area. The next steps on the project are as such. Coeur Construction, who is our CMGC, are going to issue their request for proposals in January of this year. We hope at about February, the bid opening is going to take place by that group, and then the gross maximum price will be issued in March. The entire package will come back to City Council on March 19th. And then it says on there, begin work on phase 2. That's really just a kind of a conceptual and design phase so we can understand where we want to go from here. Because while this building gets us adequate locker space, and it does give us really space for about 10 additional desks where supervisors and that sort of people were going to stay, we still don't have adequate space for our personnel. For instance, we're still going to have at least 2 squads that don't have workspace. We're still going to need conference rooms and an emergency operations center or a training room. Our current training room, it houses enough people to do about half the department if we shove them in there like sardines for training, and currently we train twice a month with half the department. That room is full basically, like I said, twice a month with people with almost no room for expansion. People are standing in the back of the room for a day during training, just because there isn't enough room. Real briefly, I wanted to outline what that would kind of look like. This is the phase 1 that is going to be going out to RFP here in just a few weeks. That's the locker room that I was discussing. Phase 2 would basically sit between that structure and Schreiber. This would be a training room / auditorium, and then some offices and some conference rooms. And the overhead from the street, that's the way it's going to look. Let me back up just a couple slides. The reason that there isn't a lot of really wonderful design on the street side of phase 1 is because at some point we're hoping to be able to fund the next phase of this, and this would basically become an interior wall. So we thought, no, why not spend a ton of money on this thing looking really pretty when it's going to be the inside of a building at some point. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions? Yes.
Couple, looks like we're getting some more parking back there.
Yes, sir.
Any particular idea how many spots?
Dave, do you know the exact number?
Oh, sorry,
Right now, we're sitting at 71.
71 new ones.
71
Gives you
additional spots.
a little elbow room.
Which is great because currently on our training days, we have people that we're parking on end caps. We're parking, so we probably have at least, 10 or so people that are parking the front parking lot because our current parking lot doesn't fit all of our employees.
Gotcha, all at once, right?
All at once, correct, yeah.
And so long-term is, you didn't show any parking in the front of that at finished? Not going to expand the front parking at this point?
Not in this phase, we don't have the funds for it. And frankly, to build a parking spot there now, with the lighting and the foliage and things like that have to go along with it, little islands, we'd just be ripping it up for phase 2. And so, no, there wouldn't be any at this point. At some point, if phase 2 is approved and funded and built, then yes, there would be additional parking in the front of that right along Schreiber.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? Yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Chief, what would the cost be to finish it all? What's phase 2? Like if we did it right now, what would that cost us?
Well, there's 2 answers to that question, or 2 parts of that answer, I guess. The cost for the building as it sits right now, just phase 1, is we expect it to come in after bid opening and the gross maximum price issued about $6.2 million. If you recall, we have $4.5 million in ARPA funds that were earmarked for this project. We currently have a little bit over $470,000 in impact fees. And last year's budget, we came in at roughly $1.3 million under budget. So I think phase 1, we're, with council's approval, probably okay. Phase 2, the rough estimate that we get from our contractor and our architect in today's funds is about $13 million. That's in today's funds, or today's dollars, rather.
Ouch.
And we realize that's years and years away, so obviously that price escalates at about 8% per year.
Other questions? Christie?
Yeah, thank you. Chief, the interior locker rooms that are now going to become offices, as you know, I had an interior office for about 15 years with no windows. I didn't really like that very much. What's going to happen? I don't recall windows in those locker rooms.
There are no windows in there.
So what are you going to do about that?
Paint it.
There's not going to be any windows in there.
There's no chance to put the high windows like we have in the detective division.
I would love to do that. I honestly would. We simply don't have the funds to add anything additional to this project at all. We really stripped it out. We really didn't even talk about, excuse me, some of the things along that back wall just because of where it sits. Being right at back there next to the current generator and things like that, we really didn't get into adding windows into that area at all, mostly because we were trying to keep costs down so low. We honestly didn't even look at it.
So on that note, the council does have the ability to look at our fund balance and maybe take some adjustments and help fund some of what you may need. So my other question, you talked about the parking for Phase 2. I'm trying to visualize that for the front. That wouldn't be secure parking, so what would you, unless you're going to secure it, what would you use it for?
No, that wouldn't be secure parking. That would be for people who are just coming to the police station either to access records or talk to detectives or attend a training function here in this section. So this is Schreiber out in this area right now. The additional parking would be somewhere in here and it'd probably link up to the existing, this is our front door as it sits right now. It would link up to this area in some fashion. I'm not an architect, however they would design that. And the additional parking would be for people who visit the police station, not necessarily for people who work there.
So I'm not going to cherry pick here, it kind of sounds like I am, but there might be a few things that maybe we could possibly fund, council could have a discussion on that. So parking for the training room you don't have, maybe is not the best way to go. But the parking in the rear, you have the 71 positions, and then do you have the security that you need built in?
Yes, part of this design includes a gate. I think it's right here, if I got my cursor in the right spot, right in this area. So this entire back lot back there is still secure, just like it is currently. This is just probably at some point going to be our exit point.
I might clarify a little bit. With the parking in the rear, we have the space for 71. We're only gaining an additional 46. Again, for funding, we scaled that back. We would need the, quick math, about 25 more spots that we're going to pave or asphalt for Phase 2. But again, we value engineered this down to what we see that we would need immediately and over the next 5 years, and then looking at that Phase 2 for the rest of it. So, and we figured, if we didn't get the full funding, maybe we could use impact fees to eventually pave the back part. Again, we've been trying to be the best stewards to get the best bang for our buck.
Okay. And I don't really know how to go about this, but I just think just for council's own information, maybe we could just have something from you about a better remodel of those locker rooms and the cost of the additional parking spaces, because we have the ability to look at our fund balance and decide if we want to fund it. And I think the only way for us to even have a discussion is for you to give us the information on that. So I guess that's what I'd request, just information.
That's fine.
Council can do what they want with it.
I can request that tomorrow, and that could be an add-alt that could be added to our bid process that they're going to run for us. And so we'll look for some windows, and I'll find out what it would be for the last part of the asphalt. The bigger issue there is with drainage, and our engineer spent a good 6 weeks trying to figure out how to do the drainage without doing a very expensive lift for that. And we may end up with some of the R tanks or other issues in that back area, again, that we were kind of kicking the can down the road, but I'll get some numbers for the adults for that.
So I'll leave that to your discretion then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Woody?
So just a clarification, the restrooms and the locker room is the first project, and you said 6.2 million?
Correct.
Lockers and
That's what they expected to come in.
Okay. And then the other part is down the road.
Yeah, we're hoping at some point, maybe we can, this is entirely up to council, a geo bond or impact fees is going to take forever to get there at our current impact fee rate, but
Okay.
at some point, we need the space.
Okay, but it's not-
Funding's the big question.
It's not like the next year or anything like that as you're seeing it. You said 3
We
to
don't have the
5?
funding to move forward at this point, sir. No.
Thank you.
Very well, thank you, Chief. We have a snow plan. We don't plan to have any snow this year, Ty.
No. Or I hope not. Let's see. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. Yeah, we're going to talk about some snow. Hopefully, I forecasted that we're only going to do 2 plows this year, so hopefully that.
Didn't budget for that, did you?
And with the weather out there tonight, it's weird that we're talking about it. So anyway, our snow plan is pretty similar to last year. I took the opportunity for you guys to see what the new dump truck with its plow looks like. So that is our first dump truck with a snow gate there on the left side. So this piece works just like it does on the loaders. We were able to try it out last weekend, and it worked well. Just going into this, staffing and preparation, we, as always, we run 2 shifts from about December, the first week of December until mid-March. Day shift, normally on an 8-hour day, work 6 to 2:30. Nights will work 3 to 11:30. During an event, we're 24 hours a day, 4 to 4 for the day shift, and 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. for the night shift. We have 21 operators that are out in various pieces of equipment or dump trucks. We have 5 mechanics that will be on staff to fix the stuff as it breaks. This year, we will have the 4 loaders with snow gates. We just got our leased loaders last week, so we're switching over to our new loaders right now. This mild weather is helping with that. We also run 4 road graders. So in the residential neighborhoods, we pair up a grader with a front-end loader. That way there's a gate in every residential neighborhood. We do have 7 dump trucks available at all times. Depending on the storm, we don't have enough people for all those trucks, but we'll put mechanics in them if we have to. We have 4 de-icers currently. When I started here 10 years ago, we had 2. So now we're up to 4. And so that's a huge benefit. I'll show you a picture in a second of the newest one. Has our biggest tank as of yet. We put a 500-gallon tank. We used to have a couple trucks with 300 gallons, so it just helps us be out on the road. And then we have 3 sand trucks and 1 salt truck. This is a picture of the truck that we call our salt truck. Last year in our budget, we were able to get a new truck. We had a truck that we were able to use for 3 months out of the year, basically, and then it sat. So we bought a new truck. This truck has a dump bed on it, so we use it all summer. This sander comes out of there in about 10 minutes, and then we put a blade on it for when we're up on the hills. The other neat thing about this truck, if you take this orange shroud off the back, we can also use this in the summer for paving. When we do our Durapatching, there's a conveyor that will move the material into our Durapatcher. So now we've taken a truck that used 3 months, it's used all 12 months. So trying to make that. This is our newest de-icer, 500-gallon tank. We've been using it a lot. It's nice when we go up on the big hills from our shop. It doesn't run out as fast, so we can normally complete an area with that truck. So we have some conditions, as always, and we got a lot of phone calls from this. In the first snow we had, why weren't we out plowing every street, every neighborhood? This kind of explains some of it. You know, we look. If we get up to 4 inches and it's going to rain or melt, we are not going to come out and plow. You know, if we see that it's 4 inches and still growing, then we're going to be out there. We do need, however, in condition yellow here, 2 inches, that's when we have to do something a little more aggressive, because de-icer does not work if there's snow on the ground. So arterials and collectors we will normally start with in that 2 to 3 inch range. Condition green is more of a de-icing. It's normally above freezing, but sometimes there can be some slick conditions. This is all of our plowing priorities on one map. In the future, there will be some new roads out in here, but that's kind of everywhere we go. We start out with arterials. That's our main priority, and I just want to go over, if it starts snowing, we work on arterials and collectors for when you get the question, and that's not reflected on our map. We don't have a way on our map to show individual streets. It shows blocks. So we keep working on arterials until I deem that they're safe buses and everyone can get around emergency services. Once we've done the arterials, we're doing the collectors at the same time. We will work on those areas, so like the Hanleys, the Daltons, things like that. That's our, all in that first push. Then, once we decide the arterials and collectors are adequate, we'll move into the residentials. And that's where people get frustrated. We work on getting there as fast as we can. But again, we have to keep the big roads open for emergency services. Couple pictures here of the residentials. This is a wet snow problematic. I like to point this out, this opportunity. It's just the on-street parking. The next few slides you're going to see is really starting to become a problem. Our machines only fit in a certain size gap. So if you have cars on both sides of the street, it gets harder. I know I've been asked before about odd, even days and stuff, and I'll go over that in a minute. But it gets really hard. When you see the berm this close to the driveway, we're not going to be able to pick that up. So the grader has left a mess for the loader, and it's problematic to get it cleaned as the best we can. You can see that the berm is being left more out in the middle to the other left side. So obviously we're going to be able to keep the snow away from the cars. I'd like to remind at this time, I know that I get calls all the time, but gates are designed to reduce the berm. They don't eliminate it 100%. We do our best, but it's going to leave something. As you can see in the top of this picture, I don't really want the loader that close to the car, so there's going to be something there. Just another picture of our process. Here again, just lots of space. If there's no one on the opposite side, we get away from the car. On-street parking is our biggest weakness. I mean, it really eats up our time. This is what happens when you have a lot of on-street parking. You end up in a scenario where the snow has to go somewhere, and then we end up with it very close to cars, and it's almost impossible to clean up at this point. There is a driveway in the middle there, as you can see. There's not much we can do about that with this scenario. So, this is our operator's biggest fear. If they come across this at night, there's a car in that pile. They don't really see that. So you can see how close that berm is right there to probably a car. So that's just something we try and watch out for, but we ask citizens to please get their cars off the street. And then a reminder, we do not plow alleys. We don't plow commercial alleys. We don't plow residential alleys. That is in this snow plan. A reminder that sidewalks are abutting property owners' responsibilities for cleaning. So there is an ordinance. We get a lot of calls for people asking us to clean their sidewalks, but we do not have enough staff to clean sidewalks. We will clean up Sherman, up 4th Street occasionally with our snow blower. Just like to remind that it is unlawful for people to deposit their snow from parking lots or alleys or anywhere into the public right-of-way. We do our best to police that. We kind of have to catch people doing it, and then that's a code enforcement issue if we catch them doing it. This is what it looks like when it's all cleaned up. I have a short video here. It just kind of shows the process of the bigger streets and why we do what we do. This is our most commonly asked question. Why do you run so many machines in a row? Well, it's so we can do it in one pass and keep the cars out of the way. It's actually by design. That's our truck team. You can see there's a loader following them to clean it up. Now we have a dump truck that will do that process for us. We don't need to separate a loader from a residential neighborhood. And then hopefully we can de-ice shortly thereafter. We have our snow plowing map, how it works. is these areas, like when we're moving into an area, it'll be green. When we finish an area, it'll be red. So you can kind of see these cells where we highlight a whole area. So it's not real pinpoint information, but we try and keep it updated during an event. Again, we do not change the map for arterials and collectors. You can see this map on our website. We also have snow removal issue. You can report online. We encourage people to do that. We will reply with an email if you report instance. We have our snow line number that we're going to try and keep updated this year to give you updates throughout the day or at the end of shift where we are currently working. And then this is the number of people it takes. Most of the people in the yellow vest are operators. But that is the entire team that deals with the storm. At this time, I'm going to take any questions.
Thank you, Todd. Woody?
Todd, didn't you, in the past, weren't you guys starting to gate arterials?
We still are, arterials and collectors. Now, we do it occasionally if we can get a loader there. It's not every time. With this new dump truck, now it'll be part of that team that is on arterials, so they will be able to gate all the driveways on like Government Way and roads like that.
Places that don't have cars parked there,
Yeah.
right? Thank you.
Kiki?
Thank you. So Todd, at one point, I think you were using some sort of organic material for a de-icer. I'm not sure it wasn't just salt. Are you still using that?
We were using another form of it. That was beet juice, if you
Beet
remember.
juice.
That's what we used. And it had some issues. It's not the cheapest alternative now. We couldn't use it like downtown because of the smell, and it was kind of tacky. And so we kind of moved away from using that product. We use another product now that we build out there that is mostly natural. We mix it up with our salt brine. So we have our brine solution of water and salt, and then we have our hot mix that has another additive in it that replaces that. Tends to do a better job a little quicker. So,
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, well,
thank you.
Council, you're asked to,
Mr. Mayor, I will move that we approve the 2023-24 annual snow plan.
Second.
have a motion second. Further discussion?
I was just going to say there's a list in here. It wasn't in Todd's slideshow, but it shows that we named the storms. And so you had the kids. Could you tell a little bit about that? 'Cause that's fun.
It is fun. We had struggles with that this year, actually. It turned out the selections weren't favorable, I guess I could say, so we went, I had to pick at the last minute. We went to North Idaho Rivers because we tried several schools, different age groups, and I mean, it just didn't feel right, so I didn't feel like I could use some of the names. I'm trying to be.
Now you make me want to know what they
Yeah,
were.
me too.
Send an email,
I will.
and people can do a records request for that.
But
Anyway,
we-
so there, Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, North Fork, South Fork, St. Joe. And this is good because it helps us track, which events, as
Correct.
opposed to referring to dates, but
We have some ideas for next year already, but we do want to still involve the kids with this process, so we think we might need to look at maybe some older age groups.
no body parts. So,
No body
yeah,
parts.
okay, good. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries. Thank you. We now move to public comments. We've got a couple of people signed up for public comments. The first one is Neil looks like Schreibois. From Post Falls.
Pardon me? My name's Neil Schreibweiss. I'm with Lamar Outdoor Advertising. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Since the change of the ordinance, Lamar has applied and replaced a couple of locations, and it went very well, and we were very pleased with the interactions we had with the staff. That was really good. Lamar is asking, or excuse me, we did apply for another permit to move a location from Northwest Boulevard onto Government Way, and the city staff denied that. We have an agreement with, we did attain an agreement with the landowners on Government Way. When the city council changed the ordinance, the wording was that billboards could not be relocated was removed. Lamar perceived that to mean that we could relocate. The current ordinance states that the billboards may remain in place. Your staff is looking at that as it has to stay in the exact same location. Our understanding is that the council was encouraging a business-friendly environment for economic development. By allowing Lamar to replace the current billboards with digital billboards, this has increased local businesses' interest and enthusiasm. They are looking for other areas in the community for more potential and opportunities. Lamar has 4 locations on Northwest Boulevard that we could replace with digitals. Through relocation, we could reduce the number along Northwest Boulevard and increase the visibility for local businesses throughout the community. This would also reduce the number along Northwest Boulevard. We have inquired with business owners and members of the Coeur d'Alene Area Economic Development Corporation and have received favorable comments regarding relocation. As a request to you for consideration, we are asking to remove the word place with the city limits, which would change the wording to billboards that were lawful on December 1st, 2019 may remain in the city limits. This may open up the fact that we could relocate. We appreciate the fact that you guys are listening to us and taking this into consideration. Our goal is to help local businesses and increase the economic development. Thank you.
Suzanne? Suzanne Knudsen.
Hello and Merry Christmas. I'm Suzanne Knudsen, and I am the co-chair for the Regional Accessibility Subcommittee at HREI. And I wanted to say thank you for having the KCPT Advisory Committee Chair, Chad, and Chris come out to present tonight. Thanks for putting that on the agenda. I'm grateful. I will contact them about perhaps maybe participating in their committee, but I thought I'd share a few things tonight just for the record. My concerns stand. I think that routes along key places for members of the disability community are important. Food banks, group homes that are north of Hayden Avenue, and employment opportunities are not accessible by city transit yet. And I'd like to see that happen, as well as I'd like to see more bus routes extended a bit into those outlying areas beyond the current routes that were displayed on the slides tonight. I think those were really helpful, but there were a lot of outlying areas that are not being accessed. Longer hours are another thing. People who ride CityLink cannot come to city council meetings because they don't have access to CityLink after 6 p.m. And I think that's sad, because I love coming to city council meetings and I want more people to be able to come. I would also like to see Atlas as well as Apple Way accessible by CityLink, just because there are food banks along those corridors. And I know that there are a lot of job opportunities on Apple Way that people have a hard time accessing because they have to walk from routes that are Midtown or Kootenai Health. So I will send over my comments from before over to Chris and to Chad, and hopefully be able to come to the next meeting. So thank you. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you in 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is announcements. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to address a couple of the issues that were raised for public comments. The first is I would like to see us revisit the ordinance for the signs. I think what Neil is suggesting to us seems reasonable, but I know we would have to change our code in order to be accommodating. I think it would be a business-friendly move. I also think that if you're running a business in Coeur d'Alene, it would be nice if you didn't have to ask permission from the government to just change your location. I don't think we do that for anyone else who has a business in the city of Coeur d'Alene. And so, Mr. Mayor, if you could make that possible, that we could revisit that in the
I think
future.
it would be appropriate to make a motion to ask for that report to come forward on that.
Okay, I will make a motion to see if we could have a report come forward to revisit the sign ordinance.
I'm going to second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Rudy?
So is this, explain to me, what are we expecting from this motion? The history of how it got to be there?
If we could change the language so that I don't want more billboards in town, and I think the whole council basically said that, but the existing billboards do represent a business, and I think if they want to move a billboard from one location to another, maybe that comes to us through some kind of a hearing or appeal process, or we could do something so that we could be more accommodating in that area.
So basically, this motion is just giving the council an opportunity to consider any changes to the ordinance.
Thank you.
Did I express that correctly?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Just the other part of that I heard, which I agree, you should be able to move within the city, but the part about they could remodel it up to a new digital or something, so hopefully that will be covered, because I think that makes a lot of sense to, if they can digitize versus just, the paste
They
and
can do
stuff,
that.
so that makes sense.
Well, further, maybe if we're going to start doing that, maybe we can get some time on that billboard, for city announcements.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Public announcement, yep.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify that we can make a motion for an item not on the agenda.
We can, yes, we can. We're not making any decisions.
Okay.
We're only asking staff to come forward with information. So that is appropriate.
Under discussion still,
Yes.
if I may. And I think everyone knows that my husband works for Lamar, but this is not a conflict for us. He doesn't have any sort of a regional promise of where he works. It's a national corporation, so it's not a conflict for me. From my understanding, what I've heard from Lamar is, first of all, Troy, you've been very kind to the company, and they've enjoyed working with you. I've heard nothing but positive things about how they've been treated by city staff, so I appreciate that. But my understanding is the request is to not build on the boulevard, which would be kind of the entry to the city, which I don't know if we want a bunch of digital boards. They could do that right now if they want to. But rather just relocate one of the boards, move it from the boulevard to a commercial area. So I'd like to have it come back for proper discussion. I think it's business friendly. I think it makes sense to get it off the boulevard, frankly, and have it in an area that, that is more commercial, more appropriate. So I'd like to see the discussion.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I also wanted to comment on what Ms. Knutson said, and I hope that Chad was listening, and I hope that you can accommodate her and her concerns as you move your project forward. Thank you.
Woody?
I would like to thank Sherry. This is her last meeting for being our girl taking minutes, and she's moving into another department. I want to thank you for bailing me out and keeping me on track, because she's my go-to when I forget a meeting or something weird happens. She keeps me on, she checks on me, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to miss your smiling face over there.
Thank you, Sherry.
We all are, and, maybe, Woody, if you'd been a little more organized and kind, maybe she wouldn't have left us.
I hadn't thought about that.
She's going to manage our community development block grant program. So
Still in the family, yeah.
we congratulate her for that move, and we wish her well, and thank her very much for putting up with us.
Yeah.
And so if someone needs a job,
Anything else? Okay. Then we have a consent calendar to consider.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 23089.
Second.
Have a motion second. Will it work?
Can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Pardon?
I want to ask a question on one of the
Yes.
items in there. And I know Vonnie's not here, but Troy, you can ask me. We do the annual road and street financial report, and that's part of the packet. So this is just a summary of data regarding streets, amounts spent that we have to submit to the state. This is not like a new grant or anything coming in.
It's not a new grant, it's done annually. Todd Fusier worked on it, and you had an impressive year on this report. You are spending in excess of any dollars coming from the state for your road improvements.
It said like
Of course.
$9 million here as a total, and that's just a big wad of money. So I want to let people know that we are working on the roads, and so this is just filing a report. Thank you, sir.
Well, what are we doing with our gas tax money that we've been given? That's the main thing.
Yeah.
It's coming back, yeah.
Will the clerk take the roll, please?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to a resolution, a revision of the sidewalk curb ramp accessibility policy. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I come before you this evening to ask for an increase in our sidewalk reimbursement program. As you know, in the city of Coeur d'Alene, city code states that property owners are responsible for the sidewalks in front of their house. So if there's a cracked and broken sidewalk or pieces missing and they want to repair those or add sidewalk, we offer a great program, the Sidewalk Reimbursement Program, to incentivize property owners to do the work on their own. We've been very successful with this program over the years, very popular, but as you know, construction costs have increased dramatically over the last few years, and so I have an estimate of, it was a 40-foot long sidewalk, and a bid for that is about $3,300 or $3,500, depending on the bid, which is a substantial amount of money for that sidewalk. Currently we offer $26 a foot for up to $650. So it takes a dent out of the amount of money that they pay to do this. So we're asking to increase that fee or that reimbursement rate to $40 a foot, so that, which brings it closer to just under half the cost that a homeowner would pay, but it does incentivize them to do the work on their own. And so with that, I would stand for any questions.
Questions? Dan, did you have one?
I don't have a question, I do have a comment. So we have our policy listed in the packet, and I discussed this with Mr. Tymeson in the past. We have the sidewalk installation must be required as triggered by a building permit greater than $30,000. It's been $30,000 for 20 years. So I think that's something that we need to, if we're going to be looking at the reimbursement fee, I think we also need to look at a $30,000 home remodel in 2007 was a lot more significant than a $30,000 remodel today. And I'm also recall that when Safeway on Niter tried to do an expansion, and the expansion triggered the sidewalk repair, the sidewalk repair was a tremendous burden to them. So they didn't do their expansion, which, I don't want to hurt business. So if we could look at that figure, I know that's not what we're discussing tonight, but I also think that should play into the policy. If we could be adjusting that at minimum for inflation and find out when that was last addressed and get that number up. I don't know how we would go about doing that, but
Well-
that did stick out to me. If we're going to be looking at the reimbursement fee, I think we should need to look at the trigger as well.
That's a good point, and I would ask Troy and Chris to look at that and give us a timeline as to when you will bring something back to us regarding that.
Certainly.
Anything else on this? Yes.
Well, just a question, in the example that you gave for like 40 feet of sidewalk, about $3,300, is that a bid if you had somebody come in and do
Yes.
it? Okay, good, because for some of us, past the time of doing a sidewalk rebuilt, but if it paid a chunk of it, then that's good, so, okay,
Yep.
thanks.
Woody?
Chris, so we have a pot of money that we reimburse for, and we're going to double the reimbursement, and I'm all fine with that. Does that mean we do less work? You said you averaged 550 feet over the years. So by paying more, so are we getting less reimbursement because we're paying more?
Hopefully that wouldn't be the case. Each year when we set our budget, we set it on what the demand was the year before, and we also have some flexibility. We have some other line items that we can borrow from, like our own concrete line item or something like that. If it's a tough budget year, obviously, we're just going to cut it off and say we can't fund anymore. We do have that disclaimer on our website that says that if we can't fund you, we'll put on a list and, the next year maybe. But our fees, or the amount that we have paid on this have fluctuated a lot year to year. This year, it's only set at $10,000, but a few years ago, we spent $23,000 on the program, so it does go up and down.
So this doesn't include CBDG sidewalk repair. It's
Correct.
two separate things. Okay, and so this is funded just through us?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I would appreciate a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Resolution 23090, approving updates to the sidewalk reimbursement program and what Dan said.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Guggen?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. We next have a resolution for a letter of agreement with Kootenai County for public transportation services. Troy?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I stand before you to ask for approval of the one-year agreement for funding for the city's portion of that public transportation that you saw a presentation on tonight with Kootenai County Transit. Back in 2000, the census designated the cities of Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Hayden, Hutter, and Dalton Gardens as an urbanized area within Kootenai County. The Kootenai County Transit System encompasses CityLink, which is a fixed route service. Partner is Kootenai Health. They help with paratransit services, and the CityLink Paratransit, which is currently operated by MV Transportation. So again, this is a partnership. This is the city's portion of that. A major player in this is the Coeur d'Alene Tribe. This is a transit system that is looked at across the country as having an amazing partnership to deliver the buses at no cost, the service at no cost to the riders, and cover the area that it does. We also want to recognize KMPO and Post Falls Highway District. So the legislative board for the system is the Kootenai County Board of County Commissioners. This public transit service provides the no-cost transit. So again, you have approved this in your financial plan. It's been a great partnership to deliver this service. I would say over the years that I have been with the city of Coeur d'Alene, this probably has the lowest cost increase for what it delivers because of the transportation partnerships and the role that the tribe plays. So again, these monies are being used as a match, and it covers operations, maintenance, procurements, and administration. Again, looking to improve the system. You saw what the consultants are doing, looking at the next steps for the transit. We have good input from our constituents on how to improve it. You've seen dollars being spent for the stops so that they are even more ADA compliant. So this is a number of different subsets of the way in which they provide transit. You've seen a presentation on it. I would stand for any financial questions I could answer.
Woody? Well, you just are really quizzical tonight.
Well, I must have been eating something weird or something. It's all the sugar there's around here. In the history, you and I have been here for this. I was wondering, was it $100,000 20 years ago, or does it go up? And if it does go up, how does it go up?
We are a portion of the partnership. I would say 20 years ago, it was probably $45,000. It's a pretty low increase for the cost, and the service in those days was not near as extensive as it is today. So again, Kootenai Health, the Tribes Partnership, we partner up with Specialized Needs Recreation. We've acquired a van that's out there to help out with public transportation for those groups as well.
You mentioned the county is kind of the overseer. Do they put any money into this?
Yep, they do.
And so everybody's involved, Hayden, all the cities.
Correct.
Even if the bus doesn't go to their city, is Rathdrum in?
No.
Okay. So that's why Hutter Post Falls, it's kind of the way he showed us the loops. Okay. And then, is there more of an advantage, is there more advantage to this other than ADA, handicaps, all the things that we hear the most of for this?
I would say absolutely, because if you're a student and want to go to North Idaho College, that's an option to get you down into that campus area. There's workers that can use this. So yeah, it's for all to be used.
And it's free.
It is free.
It's a hard word to say, free. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve Resolution 230191, which is approving a letter of agreement with Kootenai County for public transportation services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans?
Yes.
Miller? Aye. McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yep.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next, resolution regarding personnel updates and classification. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a couple personnel rule changes tonight. The first being our classification and compensation plan, a few amendments with that, and then I'll go into our an updated grievance policy in our personnel rules. So under our classification and compensation plan, specific to our Parks and Recreation Department, we currently have our entry-level position is our parks maintenance worker. So pretty much maintenance worker duties of the park system and building facilities, and that position requires a CDL license as well. And that is at a pay grade 9. Our Parks and Recreation Director is finding a need for a more basic entry-level parks maintenance worker position that would not require a CDL license and more general just parks maintenance duties. So we created a new job classification based on his needs and had that leveled, and it came back as a pay grade 8. And the proposed title is a Parks Maintenance Worker 1, and then we would just update the current Parks Maintenance Worker to a Parks Maintenance Worker 2. No changes with pay or really any of the job description. You'll notice down here where this is just a cut from our kinds and levels chart. The proposed Parks Maintenance Worker 1 falls right into the other Public Works entry-level positions that also don't require any licenses or a CDL. And then once you jump up to the next pay grade, all of these positions in this pay band require some sort of license. So the leveling makes sense, and it internally makes sense as well. Our Parks and Recreation Director currently has one lead maintenance worker position open from a recent retirement, and we'll have one additional lead maintenance worker vacant in next month through another retirement. And he would like to only fill one of those positions with the lead and then backfill the other vacancy with two of the proposed park maintenance worker ones. So with that, based on the entry-level wage and the total compensation with benefits, he would need an additional approximate $35,000 to pull to make that position whole. And he has the funds pulling from his cemetery seasonal budget as well as his parks maintenance. So we will look at that staffing and update that in the next budget cycle, if that's approved. And then the only other changes in the class comp plan have to do with just title changes. We have some superintendent titles that we've had for many years. The superintendent title for the director and the assistant is very common for positions in public works when they work under a public works director. We currently don't have a public works director. We fill all of our public works positions with their own individual department heads. So the proposal for that is to change the director and assistant from the superintendent title to a director. So either the director or assistant in each of those utilities. And then we do have, currently our streets and engineering director is not a superintendent, as well as our parks and recreation director is not a superintendent, so it would create some uniformity with those titles. Should I move on to the grievance policy, or should I stand for any questions? Okay.
You're on a roll. Keep going.
Okay, excellent. I know this is exciting. So this summer, we had a couple grievances come forward for discussion. And when we were talking through that process, we really realized that our current policy was just not very clear. It didn't have very clear process, what the documentation was needed, the timeframes were very confusing. So we sat down, those grievances initially came forward out of our police association. And so we sat down with our police association and worked through a rewrite on that policy. So that is what is being proposed tonight, but just kind of a overview on what a grievance is for. It's really for an employee that has some sort of complaint or dispute with an interpretation of either a policy, a rule, or something that's in their collective bargaining agreement. So it's their way to get their questions answered. So the purpose of a grievance is to have some sort of fair process that both the employee and the employer can follow. Encouraging the employee to make sure that they're starting with the earliest step possible and not skipping people or going straight to the city administrator or HR director, that they're really getting their problem heard in their department first. And then to make sure that we have a fair process and we're following it consistently. So just real briefly, the grievance process has three possible steps. Again, hoping that we can resolve it in the lowest step possible. But the policy just states that if the employee is filing an informal step of the grievance policy, that process, that they are following the written form that we have approved, that they're giving their immediate supervisor really what the grievance is about and what they would like that outcome to be. And then a date so we can kind of start that whole process moving forward. And so hopefully in that informal step that the employee can get their issue resolved. If not, they can elevate their grievance to a formal grievance in step 2. And really, all that information does from the informal discussion, it goes to the department head, as well as an explanation of why that employee is not satisfied with the outcome of the informal discussion. And then if the process is resolved there, we move on. If it's not, the employee can go forward to our Personnel Appeals Board, which is already currently in our personnel rules as an appeal step. So the grievance form was something we talked about in actually quite a lot of detail, but it'll really just give the employee an opportunity to put everything down that they're disputing, and then each person that's involved further down the step can know kind of what was happened, who was involved, the time frame that it was discussed, and there's just record keeping moving forward on that. And then we added a record-keeping section in the policy that basically just says that whenever the grievance is resolved, that documentation gets sent to HR and is kept per our records retention manual. Like I mentioned, we worked through this initially with our police association, and after we got to an agreement on that draft, I took the information to our executive team. We had discussion there. From that, we sent the information to our Lake City Employees Association. They reviewed it. They were good with the policy, no concerns there. The fire union has their own grievance policy specifically in their collective bargaining agreement, so this does not apply to them. It's for all of our other employees. And with that, I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. Yes. Well, Melissa, I'd just like to compliment you on the steps that you took to come forward with the personnel rule changes. You've certainly talked with everyone involved, and it seems like you've come to a good, solid agreement, and I agree with everything pertaining to the Parks Division on the opportunity to change that salary structure a bit to give more of an incoming person the opportunity that wouldn't have to have a CDL. So I like all of it. I'm in favor of it. I'll make a motion after the discussion.
I think it's time.
That's it? Okay. That was the discussion. All right. I make a motion to approve Resolution 23092, approval of personnel rule update to the classification compensation plan and the amendments to the personnel rule 16 grievance procedures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Guggen.
Yep.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Okay, Kyle, you're going to ask us to approve accepting some funds. That shouldn't be too difficult.
I hope not.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for having me. I'm here before you to ask for acceptance of a grant from DEQ for $24,000 for our protection of our source water. So we applied for a grant through DEQ to help us purchase and install some security cameras at our well sites. DEQ has currently got a grant application out that we applied for $24,000. The grant is only for security cameras that face and protect the wellhead. Nothing around the well or on the outside of the well. Fortunately, this year, we have been moving forward with a security program at our well sites that we've been trying to do for the past couple of years, and we are installing some security cameras around our well sites and at our tanks. So this falls hand in hand with that process. This is a current picture of one of our well sites that we would like to secure. We have been moving forward with a process on installing some security cameras at a few of our sites with a prior grant that we got earlier this year, or got applied last year and acquired and been installing this year. So as you can see in this picture, we've gotten our budget to install some security cameras outside, which we are doing and working on currently. It's a little bit hard to see, but they're a bullet-type camera. We're trying to cover our facilities, fences, gates on the outside, anything from any vandalism or anybody that wants to come in and do any harm. Internally, what the grant does cover is a security camera that faces the well head. So this is an internal camera in one of our well sites. Part of that grant also applies towards getting security cards and setting our systems up for card locks similar to the rest of the city. So we are matching what the rest of the city does with our card locks at our well sites, at the sites that are new enough to where we can install those. We're hoping to do all of them over the year, but we might only be able to do so many of them until we can replace some doors. We've also installed some security cameras at our well sites and at our tank sites. As you can see here, it's a little bit hard on a post. It looks towards this access, which we've had people climb the exterior of the tank and tag the top of the tank and the exterior of the tank. So we'd like to get some security cameras up there so we could help when the police department has to come out. If we have to take any pictures and notify, we may be able to get a description off the camera so we can watch those sites. It also has a motion sensor on them, so it records only when there's movement at the sites, and they'll collect, I believe, 180 days on there. I think it's 90 days if it's 100% of the time, but we don't figure we're going to get 180 days of full coverage on their movement. So I'm here to ask council for approval for the DEQ grant for our source water protection of $24,000, and I'll stand for any questions.
Woody?
How many wells? Is this going to cover all the wellheads?
So, no. So currently we have 11 wells, 7 booster stations, and 7 storage facilities scattered throughout the city. The $24,000 grant only supplies the materials for the internal components of the well. Fortunately, the internal components of the well are usually the most expensive parts because that's where the recording device is and the box and the utilities inside. So the grant, and we just finished up 4 wells, $24,000 will only do 4 well sites. But we do have in our budget to do the majority of our facilities this year. We have $100,000 to do the security cameras and some of the card locks. We're hoping to get the majority of them completed this year. I'm not sure if we'll have the funds to do all of our sites, especially our tank sites that are remote and in different parts of the city, but we're going to do the best we can with what we've got.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This one comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
You know, we hear a lot about security cameras and people want their privacy, but the fact of the matter is, unless you're a burglar or you're there to do vandalism, you're not going to be on the camera. Is that correct?
Correct. And these security cameras are only focused on our yard. We're not looking outside of our yard or facilities. We can also put electronic fence on the facility so if it kind of overcovers an area, most of the time it's going to be covering a street area. We can block that out so the cameras aren't picking up traffic driving by. It's only picking up traffic coming into our facility or over our fence.
Well, I think it's really important. Our water source is our most critical thing that we should protect, and so I like this idea. I like it that you have found money in the budget to protect all of them. And again, it's not about privacy for individuals. If you're not a burglar, you're going to be fine.
Mr. Mayor, I like that. No burglars allowed. We got your picture now. I would like to move to approve Resolution 23093, accepting Idaho Department of Economic Environmental Quality Water Protection Grant Phase 2 in the amount of $24,000.
Second.
We have a motion second. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin.
Yeah.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
And we have one last thing to do, and that is a community development block grant evaluation report. Welcome, Hillary.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, and happy holidays. All right, well, this is the time of year that staff comes before you and tells you about all the accomplishments and how we were able to spend our community development block grant funds from the prior program year. And so this will hopefully be my last presentation because we're very excited to have Sherry be taking over our community development block grant program for the city. So a little bit of history. So Community Development Block Grants, it's a grant from the Housing and Urban Development Agency, so we call them HUD. And it helps support our low to moderate income individuals throughout the community and their specific allowable activities. And oftentimes it's for housing, it's public services, public facilities, sidewalks, some of the things we've talked about. And then our big one is emergency minor home repair and accessibility program as well. We first started receiving our Community Development Block Grant funds in 2007. So this is an updated breakdown of funding. I do apologize, the presentation that was included in the packet had the outdated chart that was from the previous year. So this one shows from 2018 to 2022. And so there's a 5-year consolidated plan that we do. And so in the 5 years, we can do kind of reporting out. And this 2022 is the last under that consolidated plan. So 2023, we just started that plan year in October 1. And so that's under the next 5-year plan that council adopted earlier this year. So this is a chart just showing how the funds were spent from 2018 to 2022. You can see the percentages on the left, and then you can see the dollar amounts on the right. That other category is a little confusing. I don't know why HUD's reporting it shows it that way, but some of those were the scholarships for the youth. There was some other things in there that were COVID fund related. All of those were activities that were approved by council and were in the plan. So the total that has been spent during that time frame for the 5 years is over $2 million. So you can see a lot of great things were done, and those are the goals and how those align. So economic development was one of the goals, housing, public facilities, public services, and then the administrative. And so some key terms, so we say LMI, that's that low to moderate income. And so we use HUD's designations for that. So what we do is we look at our area median income, and then we look at the percentage breakdown of 30%, 50%, and 80%. And so you can see on the chart here for the program year 2022, the median income was $82,200. So that would generally be 2 income earners. And then the breakdown for that is below. So the low income, very low, and extremely low income percentages. So that is the 80, 50, and 30%. So when we determine what is eligible, how can we spend our CDBG funds? We get requests a lot of times on, is this project eligible? So really there's certain criteria, so it has to meet one of the national objectives, and those are listed in the red box. And it also has to be an allowable activity. So there's very specific activities that are allowed, and then there's others that are not. We also have to make sure it fits with what was approved in our 5-year consolidated plan and the annual action plan. Otherwise, we'd have to come back and do an amendment with council's approval. And then we also have to figure out, are we able to have the staffing capacity to administer that? And then is the organization capable of fulfilling the activity and also meeting all the reporting requirements, which is very important. So for the 2018 to 2022 timeframe, these were the 6 goals that we were operating under. And so the report in this caper, as we call it, tracks back to these 6 goals. These goals were slightly changed, so when we come back and report next year with the 2023, they're a little more streamlined and will make more sense, but these are the goals we were using. And then this is the breakdown of the 2022 specific funds and how those were used. So at the bottom, you can see the total allocation we received. That was $349,112. And then in the chart shows how we allocated those funds. So we did the Meals on Wheels program. That funding has been increased, and that's non-competitive, so that was $10,000, and that was completed. We have been setting aside the $5,000 for the sidewalk program, which is Community Development Block Grant, where we can partner with the city streets and engineering team to fulfill sidewalk needs. Those have to meet the LMI requirements, so it either has to be in a census tract that is the low to moderate income, or it'd have to be for an individual or an organization that serves that population to be able to be used in that area. And then the MRAP program, that Emergency Minor Home Repair and Accessibility Program, we had increased the amount, and so that was great that we were able to have a higher number of homeowners. So those are our low to moderate income homeowners in the community, and preserving our affordable housing stock is very important. So we were able to do 9 of those projects with the 2022 funds, and a total of 13 because we had some funds from prior years. We were able to
to group together. And then how we've done it in the past is we had kind of a big pot of money for that community opportunity grant, and then we would have applications come in. And so it's a competitive grant process. So for 2022, there was 2 that were awarded. So St. Vincent de Paul, they had already been working on their restroom accessibility project, and that also was helping remove asbestos in the ceiling and updating the lighting. And then they came back and said, there's more asbestos, we need some additional funds, so council granted that. And so we were able to group funds from 2 different years to complete the restroom project and do their conference room project as well, to update that room and also remove the asbestos. And then Tesh was awarded for the parking lot lighting. That project has not moved forward yet, so we need to determine if they're going to do the project or if we need to come back and get another subrecipient, another organization that would be interested in using those funds and kind of go through that process and get council's approval. And then the administrative, you can see that amount on the bottom, so that's not only covering the wages and benefits, but that's travel and training, that's publications in the newspaper, that's brochures, all of those types of things are eligible. So this is just kind of showing what goals from that 5-year plan as well as the 2022 plan, which goals were met and which goals were not met. And so through not only the use of 2022 funds, but prior year, the accomplishments were that we were able to meet the goals for neighborhood revitalization, which is that MRAP projects, public facilities, as I noted, sidewalk improvements, we set aside the funding, we didn't actually accomplish sidewalk projects in 2022. And then for sale affordable housing, we're still working with Habitat for Humanity on their project over by Costco. And so they hopefully will be done soon, but that they still have some funding available in that pot of money. And then the public service was prior year funds as well. Goals that we didn't meet, we didn't have any for rent affordable housing projects or economic development in 2022. And then some successes and highlights. I mentioned already our allocation and the Meals on Wheels. Talked about the MRAP project. So there was 9 specifically in 2022, and then we awarded those grant funds. Specifically, the St. Vincent de Paul, so the 2022 allocation for that project was $423,000, and that was completed, and then as noted, Tesh was awarded, but hasn't moved forward with their project, and that was about $64,000. And then this is just kind of an additional breakdown of that. I already mentioned these activities. The 13 MRAP project, this is always fun to highlight this because these individuals are very, very appreciative, and oftentimes we're their only solution for helping them deal with roofs that are leaking, their furnace has gone out and it's winter, they are having plumbing issues, they're disabled and they need some help with getting their bathrooms so that they can have accessibility. There's so many great things that we've been able to do, and so these are the 13 projects that were accomplished this past year. Here's some images showing new windows, new HVAC, and a new re-roof project. And then here's one showing that ADA accessible shower. You can see oftentimes we have homeowners that have had some rot and some things going on, so the subfloor needs to be repaired in addition to helping make the shower facility accessible for them.
How is that, I don't know much about ADA accessible. How is that shower ADA accessible? Do you know what the?
Oh, yeah, okay, so I probably am wrong on that one being accessible, but that is a new shower facility, so I
They
can
did
double
fix,
check.
obviously they were showering in that hole over there and then.
Right, so at least it's
shower
a
in.
functioning shower now,
So
you're right.
this may not be an ADA
This
accessible.
probably is not, so I
Okay, all
apologize
right.
for that.
Thank
yeah.
you.
But it is at least a functional shower now, so.
Better, much better.
I will fix that in the report too, to make sure that's clear. And then as mentioned, the Meals on Wheels program, so $10,000, and they are able to serve 320 seniors, which is fantastic. We also were able to spend all of our COVID funds that we received from HUD in 2022, so those have been completely depleted. In total, we had 2 allocations of the COVID funds, and so that came through our Community Development Block Grant Program, so that totaled $446,799. There were very specific purposes for which that could be used. It was to respond to, prepare for, and prevent COVID.
And so these were the three projects that were able to use the remaining funds, and we actually allocated the rest of our administrative funds for the COVID into projects to help with the CDA subsistence payments. So these three were completed, and then this chart, a lot of numbers on there, but the important thing is $0. So we have completed the requirements for that and helped a lot of organizations. And then as noted here, so we were able to spend less than was projected and allowed for the administrative costs, and that $5,000+ was able to go toward CDA for their subsistence payments. We have only received one public comment to date on this caper, and that's pretty standard, especially when you're just reporting accomplishments. So Nancy Maybill with Panhandle Area Council reviewed it and just caught a few things, just want to make sure it was consistent in terms of how many projects, because it was a little confusing to say we had 13 MRAP and then we had 9, and so trying to just clarify that in the plan and a few other things that she'd asked us to clarify or minor typos. So that's all we have heard from the public to date. Tonight, the opportunity with the public hearing is to take any public comments and then to direct staff to submit this plan to HUD for official review. With that, I would
Before I open the public hearing,
stand for questions.
is there questions for Hillary? Dan?
Yes, just on the, I think in there were a couple of areas that, weren't able to meet the goal, let's say affordable rental and then economic development. Is that because we didn't get any applicants, or some came in but they didn't meet the criteria?
Great question. So when we do those goals, we do for 5 years. And even if we don't ever meet those goals in the 5 years, that's okay. That's just kind of our best guess, and that's where we would like to spend the funds as council adopts the plans and says these are our 5 years. In that, in 2022, we didn't get anything for economic development or for the for rent, affordable housing. The economic development also, we had done some of that through North Idaho College, and we ran into some hiccups with how does this work for meeting all the CDBG requirements. It's very tricky to do economic development, we have learned. So I think that was something that, we didn't have as much focus, and there wasn't as much interest in the 2022 grant submittals.
So
for
it's
that.
not really a failure.
Right,
Right.
exactly. And we're not
Okay.
being penalized if we don't meet certain
Yeah,
goals.
yeah.
It's more just kind of a report of what we did and didn't
Yeah.
meet during the timeframe.
Woody?
A couple things. There's a word in there that says urgent need. It looks like everything looks so simple until we get into it. What is urgent need?
That
would
is, it's defined by HUD. It's very specific, and I don't know the exact requirements for that. But as we've talked to our HUD representatives, that one is a little tricky. You don't want to just say that, anything's an urgent need. Now, if we had a levee break or something and we had flooding and it was affecting our low to moderate income residents, we could say, okay, that's an urgent need and it's an LMI. We can't just say the levee broke and it's affecting an affluent neighborhood. So there's certain criteria will still has to come back and meet all the CDBG eligibility requirements. But urgent need is a little trickier to say.
Okay.
That's a
Along
project.
the economic development word, I had a question mark by that too. Thanks, Dan, taking the heat for me. So this is a weird one. So with the transit thing that we talked about, development, helping disabled and stuff, do you see that ever fitting into that?
That one's a little tricky. We've received some requests before for, say, a sidewalk with an ADA ramp in front of an organization, for example. The hard part is if you have a system like a sidewalk or a transit stop or something where you can't say it's only for that population to use it, right? It's not only our LMI residents that are using that, and so you have to have more than 51% of the users have to be low to moderate income, and how do you specifically say, oh, sorry, you can't use this facility because you're not, or you can't use this sidewalk or this. So it's a little harder when we're asked to spend the funds on something that's so specific like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Hillary.
You're very welcome.
I'm going to open the public hearing, and I will note that no one has signed up to testify, so I will close the public hearing. Any further questions for Hillary or comments? If not, it would be appropriate to have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would approve the Community Development Block Grant 2022 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I move that there being no further regular business, that this meeting be adjourned for the rest of the year.
All right, second.
You have a motion and a second. Before we do, I want to wish all of the community a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful holiday season, and hopefully not so much snow that we have to use that snow plant. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned till next year.
Merry Christmas.